India and South Asia. Kala Jadoo, Tantric arts and witch accusations. In India, the idea of Kala Jadoo or Kala Jadoo, literally black enchantment, is widespread. Many villagers still believe in Tantra magicians who cast spells from hidden shrines. A villager might whisper that someone is suffering from a nazar, evil eye, or a buri nazar caused by jealous relatives. Local newspapers and astrology sites often recount tales of innocent people falling ill after an enemy felt inauspicious or tore a photograph in half. An October 2024 Times of India report defined black magic as the use of supernatural powers for evil or selfish purposes, saying practitioners may employ spells, curses, hexes, or rituals to harm or control others. These descriptions, though published in an astrology column, align with how many Indians describe it. Terms like shaitan, devil, dayan, witch, or tantric, practitioner of tantra, get mixed into village gossip. A typical scenario might play out under the sway of suspicion. For example, an elderly widow in a rural village is accused of being a dayan after the young schoolteacher's baby falls ill. Some men find strange marks, called nazar symbols, on the baby's arm and insist a witch's curse must be broken. They drag the woman to a tantric, a priest of folk magic, who uses chants, incense, lemons, or the child's photo in a ritual. In a chilling twist, local rumors sometimes spiral until villagers form a mob to chase the accused into the forest. Indeed, India has seen tragic witch hunt violence in some areas, where belief in magic becomes a pretext for social vendettas. While we will not retell specific crimes, analysts note that accusations often target the vulnerable, single women, land disputes, personal grudges, under the cover of Kala Jadoo fears. But it is not all hysteria. Many Hindus simply view black magic as one cause of misfortune among others. Folk remedies are common. People might visit temples dedicated to Shiva or Kali, gods associated with overcoming evil, to get charms or blessings for protection. Some temples even claim to remove the effects of evil eye or witchcraft through ritual. Mantras, sacred chants, like the Hanuman Chalisa or Gayatri mantra, are recited as safeguards. As one Tamil priest explains to distraught worshippers, magic exists as long as the mind believes. We show people that prayers and good deeds cast out darkness.
In popular culture, Bollywood and folk tales amplify the drama of black magic. Enchanted lemons, flying shrouds, ghostly artists at midnight.
But scholarly observers note the underlying pattern. Chaos breeds fear. If a harvest fails or a marriage is interrupted, asking, "Who bewitched us?" can give anxious people a sense of control. Similar logic was noted by E. Evans Pritchard among the Azanda. Attributing blame to witchcraft simply explains events in a culturally coherent way. In the Indian context, it also reinforces community norms, male villagers banding together to protect each other from perceived evil. Common elements of South Asian black magic include sacrificial offerings, black goats, wine, secret tantras, ritual texts, circles drawn with salt or rice, and symbolic objects like red dots on the forehead of the target. A tantric practitioner might write a person's name on a banana leaf, pierce it with needles, and bury it under a road. Or he might recite verse from Sanskrit texts that invoke demonic powers, for instance, the Vashikaran mantra, to attract or control someone. While devout Hindus may condemn such practices as abominations, breaking dharma, many still worry they might happen. This ambivalence, fearing magic yet feeling powerless against it, keeps the belief alive.
Western history, witch hunts and ceremonial magic.
Meanwhile, in medieval and early modern Europe, black magic took on a very specific meaning. It was almost synonymous with witchcraft and Satanism. Many Christian leaders equated any folk magic with devilry. The Malleus Maleficarum, 1486, fanned those flames. It declared that witches were in league with Lucifer and taught how to root them out. Villagers were told to look for the devil's mark on a scapegoat's body or to perform impossible tests under torture. What we see historically is that accusation was itself the evidence. The mere charge of witchcraft, fueled by panic or prejudice, could doom a person. Between 1500 and 1660, some historians estimate, perhaps 80,000 people, mostly women, were executed for witchcraft in Europe. Alleged witches were blamed for anything from a failed harvest to a sudden death. On the other hand, there were also learned occultists who practiced ceremonial magic in secret. Figures like Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, 16th century, and later Aleister Crowley, 20th century, wrote voluminous grimoires on summoning spirits and angels, sometimes for good ends, sometimes out of mere curiosity. But in folklore, the common image was the hag stirring a cauldron or the village crone learning curses in the graveyard. One dramatic chapter is the Salem witch trials, 1692, in colonial America. Hysteria there was triggered by fits of children in a Puritan village. When accused slaves or villagers confessed under pressure, they told bizarre stories of pacts and black magic. Tituba, an enslaved woman in Salem, admitted, after torture, that she had been to a satanic Sabbath in the forest and seen others using black magic. Whether any real magic occurred is doubtful. Some modern scholars think the girls had hallucinated poisoning, but the trial transcripts read like ghost stories. By the 19th and 20th centuries, the wild persecution largely subsided, but a fascination with occult wisdom continued. Secret societies like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn explored Kabbalah and ritual magic. Writers catalogued grimoires full of incantations, seals, and demons, for example, the Goetia of the Lesser Key of Solomon. The famous occultist Arthur Edward Waite published the Book of Ceremonial Magic, 1911, surveying the history of Western magic practices. In these works, black magic was often defined as summoning infernal spirits, casting evil spells, or performing the Black Massachusetts. In fact, 17th century black masses, secret parodies of Christian liturgy, were part of the witchcraft lore of Europe. However, these learned magicians usually insisted their own rituals were protected and benevolent. They claimed they never really conjured demons, only disciplined angels. Modern Western witchcraft and Wicca, by contrast, tend to repudiate any black aspect. Contemporary witches usually focus on nature magic, herbs, moon phases, and emphasize that harm to others is taboo. Still, pop culture thrives on the idea of the evil witch. Gothic novels, horror films, and Halloween imagery keep alive the stereotype of the witch stirring a poison or a child abuser. Sensibly, serious anthropologists treat those as myths. In reality, self-described witches and pagans today usually cast magic as a form of positive energy. But the fear of black magic, historically born of real witch hunts, remains in the collective imagination. Despite the folklore, what does actual practice look like? If one attended a clandestine ritual billed as black magic today, it might surprisingly resemble any other spellcasting. For instance, practitioners across cultures often use symbolic effigies or dolls to represent a person. In popular image, a voodoo doll with pins invokes voodoo magic, but historically doll magic, sympathetic magic, was common even in Europe. One commentator explains that dolls are simply a focus. Pins or objects are inserted into areas of the doll corresponding to the intended outcome. In some contexts, this is for healing, a doll stuck at the head to cure headaches. But malicious intent can also guide the needle. Sticking pins into the doll to inflict harm on the target is a widely feared act. In either case, the doll links the body to the ritual. Other common elements of black magic rituals span cultures. The use of personal items, hair, nails, photos, to establish a supernatural connection to the victim, a form of sympathetic magic, engraved talismans or amulets to carry spells, and elixirs or potions imbued with botanical or even toxic ingredients. Written spells or curses might be composed on paper and buried or burned. Prayer, chanting, or sacrifice to spirits or deities is often involved. As a summary of Islamic views notes, magic encompasses a wide range of non-physical beliefs, including the making of amulets and the invocation of spirits. In voodoo lore, one might sprinkle salt for purity, draw pentagrams to invoke spirits, or employ crystals and candles for focus. The steps usually include gathering materials, candles, herbs, wax, mirrors, etc., consecrating them through prayer or breath, shaping them into a ritual object, like a charm or doll, and then reciting an incantation to activate the magic. A colorful case on a magic blog even lists doll colors, black for protection, red for power, etc., and matching colored pins to declare intention. In all these activities, the physical props are less important than the belief behind them. As one sorcerer might say, you don't need fancy tools. Your will and fear are the real keys. Middle Eastern and Islamic perspectives. Sihr, jinn, and the evil eye. Under the date palms of a desert town at dusk, an imam kneels to pray while a worried mother watches. The child clings to her skirt, refusing to sleep. "It is not malaria," the Imam whispers. "The eye is on him. We must ward off Sihr." He fishes in his satchel for taweez, a small amulet inscribed with Quranic verses. With solemn care, he ties it to the boy's arm. "By God's words, no sorcery can harm him," he says, placating fear with faith. In Islamic theology, such concerns are taken seriously. The Quran warns explicitly against sorcery, sihr, describing it as a grave sin. In fact, the very word sihr appears in the Quran. It literally means enchantment or black magic. One scholar notes that the Arabic sihr in the Quran is often rendered black magic and encompasses all forms of harmful sorcery. Prophet Muhammad is reported to have said that magic and dealing with demons is forbidden for Muslims, so pious believers avoid it. Yet belief in it remains widespread. Surveys by Pew Research find that in many majority Muslim countries, roughly half or more of people believe in witchcraft and the evil eye. They might also believe in jinn, spirits made of smokeless fire, who can be summoned or tricked by magicians. Still, majorities in those societies say they do not personally use magic and trust that relying on God is the right response to misfortune. In other words, Islam traditionally condemns black magic, but ordinary folk often cast spells anyway. Popular Islamic culture weaves a rich tapestry of protective rites. Families recite Surah Al-Falaq and Nas, the last two chapters of the Quran, to ward off evil eye and whispered witchcraft. Taweez amulets, verses on paper sewn into cloth, are worn or placed under carpets. Water sanctified by prayer might be sprinkled around the home. These are not magic in the left-hand sense. They are pious invocations that the faithful believe neutralize the enemy. Curiously, this is allowed because the power is believed to come from Allah, not from jinn. If one were to attempt black magic in secret, the methods might echo other traditions but with an Islamic twist. A sorcerer in Yemen or Morocco might write the target's name on parchment, add a verse from the Quran in reverse, and burn it at midnight. Another might melt lead and pour it into water, a popular Middle Eastern divination, to see shapes of devils. Historically, Bedouin magicians traded jinn bracelets or locked curses in bottles. Yet none of this is spoken of openly. It's taboo and illegal. According to some states' laws, even hiring a jinn to curse your neighbor can be prosecuted as sorcery. This fear is mutual. People believe jinn can be hired by enemies, and so-called evil eye, al-ain, the belief that covetous glances cause harm, is also closely linked to black magic. In modern Arab society, accusations of sihr can still surface in court. But many scholars interpret such episodes as signs of psychological distress rather than real spells. Some Sufi mystics even argue that true magic, in a broad sense, is the power of the mind and the will, that it is real only in perception. As one imam told a journalist, magic is real to those who believe it. The Prophet wanted us to say, "I seek refuge in God," to break it, not to brag that we have mystical power. Nonetheless, the Middle Eastern view shares a crucial point with the African and Indian perspectives. Belief itself is potent. A Muslim weaver in Cairo might suddenly fall ill after envying a neighbor's fortune. If he thinks she must have cast a curse, that anxiety can manifest as real symptoms. Meanwhile, his wife diligently burns incense at twilight to cleanse the house. Not because they think the smoke magically heals, but because it soothes their troubled minds. In this sense, even Islamic protective rituals mirror the structure of magical practice. Set an intention, use symbols, verses instead of herbs, and perform it with faith. This leads some anthropologists to conclude that across religions, what looks like magic may simply be collective psychology and tradition, a framework humans use to cope. From witches burned in Europe to whispered curses beneath desert stars, magic has haunted the human story across every culture. Why did entire villages turn on their own? How did ancient scrolls, desert amulets, and ghostly spirits shape beliefs that still echo today? Candle, whether it's a Puritan courtroom or a Bedouin prayer at dusk, magic isn't just a myth. It's a mirror of our fears, hopes, and hidden power. At Curiousphere, we explore the hidden corners of history, folklore, and forbidden knowledge.
Witches, Sihr, jinn, secret societies, real rituals.
If you're ready to unlock the world's most shadowy stories, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and step inside the sphere of the curious. The next chapter begins where belief meets fear. What is your thought about this? Comment your thought in the comments section.
Welcome to Curiousphere.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.